Joining me is Professor Wayne Lesperance, Professor of Political Science at New England College. And, we talked a lot about the New Hampshire election. It was, a very interesting race in a lot of ways, but very different from the rest of the country.
Right.
The Democrats held serve, by and large.
Sure.
With the exception of CD1, where that flipped. But in the rest of the country, the Republicans really picked up surprising. I thought there would be some runoffs before the Senate was determined.
Right. I think some of the conventional wisdom was exactly what you said, that we might not know who has control of the Senate until December, right, when Georgia and Louisiana were going to eventually have their runoffs. Before midnight last night, we knew the Republicans had the Senate. It was a big night. I don't want to overstate it or understate it, but it was a big night for Republicans last night. The not just the number of seats they won, and there's still maybe 2 more coming. In the places that they won, Virginia was so much more competitive than anybody thought it would. It looks like that Mark Warner will win it, Democrats. But the GOP basically pulled out of Virginia a month ago. They stopped spending money. Had they stayed in, who knows what could have happened. That was an incredibly close race. North Carolina flipping. The race in Georgia between Nunn and Perdue. Perdue was supposed to be tight, and people were saying that Nunn had a good shot of knocking him off. It wasn't even close. And then that's the Senate. You look at other seats, whether it was the House expanding the number of seats. Governorships are where Democrats thought they had a real chance of picking up, some ground, and instead the Republicans end up netting 3 seats, 3 governor seats. So all across the board, New Hampshire really is this island. This blue island in an otherwise red sea, and I'm overstating a little bit.
Because Vermont's also
right,
blue.
But look at Massachusetts. It looks like we're going to have a Republican governor in Massachusetts. Maine went from all blue to having LePage get re-election for governor and having a congressional seat. I think if you look at the 2012 map, you see all these blue areas. And then you overlay the 2014 midterm results. A lot of that blue went red. So I would say overall, Republicans had an excellent night. They have a lot to be happy about. New Hampshire just happens to be that firewall, I suppose, at least this time.
So President Obama has got to govern, and now he's got to govern with a group that the Republicans can send him bills.
Right.
The Senate, I suppose they can stop some of the bills from getting to a vote.
Right.
But he can't have, Harry Reid could have kept something from his desk. He may have to take stances on issues.
Harry Reid kept hundreds of bills from moving forward. That was the power of the Senate Majority Leader. Mitch McConnell is committed to moving them forward. I think the real question is going to be that divide between more establishment type Republicans and the Tea Party types. If the first thing out of their mouths is impeachment, is Benghazi, is investigations and subpoenas, then this is going to go in a direction that's probably not going to yield to a lot of results. But there really is an opportunity here. The president is largely in a lame duck session now. He's got 2 years left. He's still got to do something for 2 years. There's an opportunity for him to work with folks like Mitch McConnell and John Boehner, I think, and to find some compromises around some issues. Maybe it's immigration, maybe it's tax reform. There's a handful of things where they can get some things done. The other thing that presidents typically do in their last 2 years is think about their legacy. And so one of the things Barack Obama has to be thinking about as he goes forward is, okay, so do I just sort of become the occupant of the White House for 2 years and watch history sort of go by? Or is there a way for me to write my name in the history books yet again around some signature issues? Imagine if a deal could be brokered between Boehner, McConnell, and Obama on immigration reform. That would be historic.
Does he have the ability, the president, from what you've looked at him for 6 years, to be able to compromise?
The biggest problem that Barack Obama has is Barack Obama, right? He hasn't developed the relationships on the Hill with his own party or with Republicans. And in fairness, Republicans have been all interested in developing relationships with him. But the president said today, I'm sure he's announcing it right now, in fact, as we tape, that he wants to convene a meeting of all these key players, get them in a room together, and talk about what can we do together. If that's genuinely what happens, let's reach out, let's find a way to work forward, then, there could be progress. We're never going to have a Ronald Reagan, Tip O'Neill relationship between Barack Obama and anybody else. It's just not in his DNA. But if he's going to be relevant, frankly, for the next 2 years, and not just somebody who's blocking and protecting what he thinks is his legacy with Obamacare, he's going to have to reach out, and they're going to have to reach out too.
And I want to get one last little thing. It's really not the next 2 years. He's brought
Right.
a year. year and a half, maybe.
Sunday, Rick Perry comes to New Hampshire for his first event as a potential presidential candidate. I jokingly said, we got about, take a deep breath, we have about 15 minutes and then the New Hampshire primary begins. And I was kidding, but I'm not really, because they're coming. They've been coming. So everybody begins to shift, right? And soon this becomes Hillary Clinton's party or some other nominee's party as opposed to Barack Obama's party. So you're right, it's not really 2 years. There's really about 9 months, right, before this gets really, really presidential focused. And he really is sort of in the process of phasing out.
We know on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is the clear front runner. At some point I read she raised more money than every other candidate in both parties.
Sure.
And it wasn't the Hillary Clinton, it was the draft Hillary Clinton.
Draft Hillary, right.
What are we seeing on the Republican side?
So on the Democratic side, really quickly, it's Hillary, and we just did a poll, the New England College poll, has Hillary, has Elizabeth Warren, has Bernie Sanders, and then Joe Biden. I mean, fourth, the vice president. And on the Republican side, we took out Mitt Romney because he says definitively he's not running. The winner was Bush from Florida, Jeb Bush, of our poll, and followed by folks like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz.
But Jeb's been out of politics for a while.
Jeb's been out of politics, but there's sort of this nostalgia for a moderate Republican who knows how to talk immigration and talk education, a governor who's been an executive before. There's a real interest in Jeb Bush running, and guess what? Jeb Bush hasn't said no, and in fact, there's a lot of folks who seem to indicate that Jeb Bush may be taking a serious look at this.
Well, we'll find out. When we do, we'll have you back on. But right now, we're out of time.